Cool, cool, cool. Welcome everyone to another episode of Beyond Your Beliefs. Today I'm truly excited. Today we're going to go into some topics that I feel like are going to help a lot of individuals. Let me actually pull up some notes that me and Matthew were talking about, so that way that we stay on topic. Today's actually going to be a really good episode. So I want to show appreciation to every single one of you for tuning in week after week, for showing us love, week after week, and for a tremendous last week of a Q&A that we did. It was a very interesting topic. If you guys haven't visited or seen that episode yet, it's been uploaded. Revisit it. But either way, guys, welcome. I want to say thank you, Matthew, for being here on another episode and accompanying me.
Sir, grateful to be here as always.
Cool, cool, cool. So, guys, if you guys ever experience some level of fear or have to take some level of risk, this episode is going to be for you. Cool. So, our first note that we were mentioning, myself and Matthew, were okay, cool. Like at the beginning of the series, we really went in depth as to where you are going, and just giving you a little bit more self awareness in the topic of where you are, and kind of painting a path as to where you could be going, what's the next step, and where you want to be. And now, taking these steps forward into self development, taking these steps forward into your business, taking these steps forward into entrepreneurship can sometimes be truly like it's just unknown. That's the thing. It's like you're diving into the unknown. So when you dive into things that you don't know, um, you're going to experience some level of fear, right? So like you're going to experience some level of risk. Okay, so these risks that we take are going to be the very thing that so the risks that we take are going to give us fear, right? And when these fearful thoughts come in, a lot of us and a lot of people have, I noticed, what they do instead of facing those fears and moving forward with a business or a business decision, they rather sit in the unknown, right? You rather sit in the unknown and not move forward just because of that next of not knowing that next step or what's maybe coming ahead. And I feel like that alone, like, don't allow not knowing what to do next and the fear of not knowing what's coming next be the thing that keeps you from moving forward in a career path, in a business decision, or in any decision really. This can be related. So this topic was brought on because we trade, myself and Matthew trade. Besides doing the pod, we trade Monday through Friday, and as traders, we take daily risk. I mean, every day I guess we don't have to trade every day, but on a weekly basis, we take some regular exposures to the market, some regular exposures to a risk of loss of capital, of equity. And not gonna lie to you guys, like that really at first was the fear behind it did not wrap around my head well enough until I started losing some pretty decent sized numbers. But at first, I treated it more like a game, and I was pretty happy about my approach to it. Okay, I came across a lot of individuals, and I don't know about Matthew's experience, but myself, I remember when I dove into trading at first, I was very very open to the risk. right? And because I was very aware of the potential gains. So I was willing to risk it. I was going for it. But I mean, after blowing like that second, third account, it really strikes some levels of fear in your mind as to, okay, look, if I keep going so recklessly at the market, I'm gonna blow everything. So it's just like these different steps that you learn in regards of facing your fears, and now so all of a sudden now you experience the loss of capital or equity, and therefore you fear more of the market or of its capabilities, because you see these big numbers coming in, but you also see some pretty decent sized numbers going out, and that's the one thing that really ignites a lot of fear, at least for me. But Matthew, I don't know what your experience was diving into to trading with fear, but uh, for me it was a realization of because I took a break in trading at the beginning, and it was like, okay, I I want to keep learning how to trade, but I'm too afraid to keep loading up the account. Like that
Mhm.
was a big one for me. So the fear, I think where I'm going with this is like the fear of making a mistake is a mistake itself.
Mhm.
Is the mistake itself. It's because I mean we all fear make have fears, right? But the fear of making a mistake is usually more harmful than the mistake itself.
Mhm.
So go ahead and fail, right? So keep failing as a trader. It was something that I had to realize. Instead of taking a break from trading, I decided I had to realize that it's not the break that I need. It's more of
Mhm.
that fear that I need to feed into myself to keep experiencing. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to add on to that, Matthew, but
I mean, yeah, just like a bunch of things kind of came to my mind when you were talking about that, especially right now towards the end of it. Was it's kind of like, the failing forward thing. We hear that all the time.
yeah,
Like when you're failing, you're kind of getting like bricks thrown at you, whatever. But it's
yeah,
like how you use those bricks. Like are you using those to build? Because you could really learn from those things and build. Something one of my mentors told me really early on was like, when you feel like you're under pressure or like especially you're backed in the corner, so that's when you apply more pressure. Most people will fold, right? But that's when you keep going. And I was just like, oh, it makes total sense because
yeah,
like it's how you break through. But yeah, like when I first started, I was completely oblivious to like how serious and yeah, like how much you could actually lose from trading because my first exposure to the markets was someone who was up like 7 grand in a week. So I was
yeah,
like, shit, I have someone who could like make sure I'm good. But then, you try to do things on your own. I got beginner's luck, I guess, the first day and then blew that account. And then, yeah, just like you said, the second, third time around, you're kind of just like a little more cautious. And,
mhm,
those things could hold you back from taking advantage of certain opportunities. But you hear it all the time, past performances don't mean you're going to get the same kind of results in the future. Like who you are now, who you were in the past doesn't define like where you're going or who you're becoming.
mhm,
But it's really like what you make from those experiences. And yeah, it's like you again, we talk about this all the time, especially on our sessions. It's like in trading, like you could really lose more than you win, but still
mhm,
make more than you lose. Like that's the thing about trading is like for us, like yes, we're exposing ourselves to daily risk, but we have certain parameters and we're aware of them. So it's not like we're like risking our entire lives and doing something wild. So like kind of being aware of the risk and the severity of it, but at the same time, like how minimal it really is, putting things in the perspective when you compare it to other things, like people do very risky things and it's all risk to reward, right? It's like the fear of losing, but then there's also like, there's regret from not even trying. Like I feel like
mhm,
that's a deeper like hole that you could feel is like the regret of like what could have been rather
yeah,
than actually participating, having things not go your way, but gaining experience, just like in a video game that you get XP points and like eventually like it allows you just to go further. So that's the way I see it. It's like failing is such a blessing in disguise. And there's really, like, again, you compare it to some of the greats. Let's just use high performance athletes, right? Like
Yeah.
we talk about this all the time as well. It's like, think of someone like Kobe Bryant, right?
Yeah.
Considered one of the GOATs, right? One of the greatest of all time, but he has like the most missed shots in the NBA, right? So it's like producing more volume, right? The more output you get, like you're increasing your chances of actually winning, of things
Yeah.
going right. Like, you see interviews of like Jay-Z of like, you just got to keep doing that thing, because you only got to be right once. And once you kind of get it, then, you would have never really figured that out unless you continue to fail forward and gain those experiences, have those bricks be thrown at you and use them so moving forward, like based off of previous experiences, like what works, what doesn't. But also it's like things can't really hurt you as much as they did in the beginning because you've kind of been through it already. Like you increase your tolerance, but again, it's not like you're going to put yourself through those things. You're wiser to allow yourself not to put yourself through those things. So it's like through time, it may is just like in trading, right? Again, like we could relate everything to trading because that's what we do. But
Yeah.
like you never know like what's going to happen next before you take a trade.
Yeah.
All you know is what you're risking and what your target is, and you have to accept that risk, before like participating in anything, because doing things out of like a reckless behavior, anything could happen. Like it could go really really bad.
Yeah.
So that's why we talk about taking calculated risk. Like because like when I first started, I was pretty reckless, like really gambling mentality and stuff. But then it's like over time you realize you have to take calculated risk because one, two, three decisions, bad decisions, you could take yourself out for a long time.
Yeah.
But again, if you're taking calculated risk, you can have as many bad decisions as you want, but like you're still moving forward because you're keeping yourself in the game. So it's like
Longevity.
longevity. So with trading, you don't need to know what's going to happen next to make money, right? Just like anything else. Like we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
Anything could happen. So it's like it's okay to be in a state of not knowing. And it's learning to accept being in the unknown because in reality, when you set your goals, when you set goals, you're going after something that you've never experienced before,
Right.
right? And you're bringing something out of yourself that you didn't even know was there, right? You're going into new experiences that you've never experienced before. So it's important to know, like when setting goals, like we are going after things that we've never experienced. So there's going to be things that you can't be like too hard on yourself on for not knowing,
Yeah.
because like you're along the way, like you're gonna like figure it out. So it's like, so I
Not
can,
beating yourself up on the way there too. It's
yeah,
so important.
yeah,
Like
on and
just like you said, like
like
it's huge.
in trading is so, because like for me, like you kind of realize like okay, like the charts, for example, like the markets, they can't like hurt you physically, but like you can mentally, which manifests on a physical level, and then like all of that stuff. But it's like again, I'd rather do something and fail learning that way than have an opportunity go by and never actually like even know what that was like. So if wherever you are, if there's a next step that seems fearful, it's like it's something that could take you closer towards your goal, because that's all it is, right? We're out here taking steps that are getting us closer to our goals, and some of those things are going to be scary, right? It's going to be like, damn, like I gotta invest this, or I gotta fly here, I gotta go there, I'm going to meet this like extremely uncomfortable situations, right? You hear like, nobody grows in the comfort zone. Like you have to get uncomfortable to experience new things. So wherever you are, if it seems like things are confusing, a quote that really helped me was, I'll read it right here. It says, "You can't connect the dots looking forward, right? You can only connect them looking backward. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in the future." Meaning, all you have to do is focus on the next step, right?
Oh yeah.
Because if you're looking at like, oh, and become a multi-millionaire billionaire, and like you're looking at all these things in the future, it could be like, holy fuck, like you could be stuck and like kind of paralyzed and how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
But in reality, all you have to focus on is the next step. And if the next step is scary, like you can just kind of take it, right? Because you'll either step forward into growth or you'll step back into safety, right? And safety
Oh
is
wow.
is the familiar place. Growth is in the unknown. So it's like fear and growth really go hand in hand, right? Like when you courageously face the thing that you fear, right, you automatically experience the growth that you've been seeing. Like that's the ironic thing, right? Is like fear is something that seems to be like running, you like fear, run away, right?
Yeah.
But it's like no, like you go through it and you hear the thing, right? Everything you want is on the other side of fear. So it's like when you really put things into perspective, like the risk the that you have to take, the thing that's the next step that's in front of you that may be scary, after you actually do the thing, you'll be like, wow, like it actually wasn't that bad. It's
Yeah.
just we create things in our mind, right? Like the worst will never happen and the best is yet to come. And the only way we'll ever figure that out is we have to do things we've never done, right? In order to experience things we never experienced, we must do things that we've never done. So it's really identifying and avoiding the landmine that will sabotage your success. And it really is just knowing that it's we're either stepping forward into growth or stepping back into safety, stepping back into the familiar space of like what's known, what we're comfortable with, or it could even be uncomfortable staying there. But freedom and success and like the things that we really want is
Yeah.
going straight through that thing that's scary, that thing
Yeah.
that is fearful. Cause like imagine like you're like you just got done losing 3 trades, right? And again, for anybody who's watching this who's not familiar with the language that we talk and stuff, so it's like let's say we're risking 1% per trade to gain 3%, right? Or let's say we're risking 1% to gain 5% per trade. And you just got someone just got done losing 3 trades, and they're so afraid to take that next trade, but it's still following their plan. It's the same, but they don't take it because they don't want to lose. But if they would have taken it, that trade would have hit 5% and they would have been in net profit 2%, right? But they didn't take it because of the fear. But if they would have just sent it, shout out to Nike, just do it,
Yeah.
then like that's how you find out. So for me, I'd rather live through learning through multiple failures than having to live with the regret of never taking the opportunity, of never taking the risk of what could have been. Because you'll either be living like wondering what could have been or living in like I'm glad I did that because now I know what it is.
Right.
So yeah, so calculated risk.
I like that. I like that a lot. I like that because one of the biggest things that we avoid when when we're in that fearful mind state of mind is the pain, is the fear itself. So when you dive into something that is a level of risk and exposure, first let's understand what risk does to your body, and it sends your body into this fight or flight mode. So your body, your instinctive reaction to an exposure to risk, it is, we're at the end of the day, we're human beings, and we share some traits with other animals of the world, and one of these traits is actually survival mode. Okay, what we call fight or flight, being in survival mode. So when your body, back in the primal eras, as humans, we had to survive and fight for food. We had to go take daily risks for our nutrition and for our families and for everything. And so since very very early ages, we've been avoiding fear. We've been training our subconscious mind to avoid fear. It's our primal instinct to avoid fear and loss. Okay, what our subconscious was trained to do. So as somebody in the trading field, you come to learn that those two things are are just wired into you. It's a program that your brain downloaded a long time ago. That it was even downloaded, maybe even in your birth, without you, in the first few years of your life, without you even meaning to. Okay, but what we know now is that when you go into fear, you go into this fight or flight survival mode. And what your subconscious does is it will literally block out information that is harmful to you. It will literally, you will, if you've ever been in a life or death situation or a horrible accident, a lot of the times what happens, what you hear individuals say is like, man, I was doing this and the next thing you know, I woke up 20 minutes in an ambulance, or I woke up like, and it's because your mind, you may be fully awake. Like, recently the Usman fought in the UFC. I watched UFC. Yeah, he got rocked by Leon.
I made a noise, but I was muted.
He got rocked by Leon. They still did the whole, like, they stood him up and they did everything with him, but he doesn't remember a damn thing about it. He says that he remembers shaking to the left, shaking to the right, and then next thing he knows, he woke up in an ambulance 20 minutes later. But I mean, he stood up, he talked and everything, and he doesn't remember any of that. Like, before he got to the ambulance, he clearly had conversations with individuals, but his mind was so rocked that it just blocked everything out. It's like when you go through a traumatic moment, your mind literally erases that part so you don't have to keep reliving it. Because what's the biggest abuse in life? It's self-abuse. You relive moments in your head again and again after they happen, after the fact. So you allow your past to haunt you, right? Or people are fearful of future, and we allow the future, the unknown, to stop us from moving forward. And again, your mind has the power to block out any of this information to the point where you just can't see it. Like, it's just non-existent to you anymore. From either past experience or future, the the unknown future, the uncomfortable zone. And so, you know, the future is only scary for those who are unable to deal with the past or the present. Okay? So
Sheesh.
a lot of the things that we do are based off previous experiences. But like as Matthew says, you know, previous experiences or previous results do not guarantee future results. Previous experiences doesn't guarantee that you're going to have the exact same experience when you do this again. And so, um, one of the biggest things that I would say is when you come across these fearful situations, like trading, for example, and you come across a loss, a big, pretty decent sized loss, one that to the point that made you realize, okay, either I'm slowing things down or I need to reanalyze my approach. Okay, one of those that make you reanalyze what you're doing, right? And you realize that you've been overexposing yourself or exposing yourself to the market on a day-to-day basis and are unable to deal with any more pain. But you are, let's say, one trade away from hitting the banger, that one trade that you'll never forget. That, but that one moment, all those moments that build up to that, to then, it becomes so painful that you could not bear anymore, and you decide these are the moments, these pressure moments where people quit. Right before, when you add so much pressure that you become a diamond, people quit right before they are able to add on any more of that pressure. But it's that pressure that creates the diamond. It's the pressure that creates the the result. It's the pressure that creates that the pain, it's the pain that creates that pain tolerance. So the cure
Mm.
for pain is more pain. The cure for fear, for fearless trading, or for less fearful decision making, is
Mm.
making more fearful decisions.
Mm.
The fear, the cure to trading with in a more carefree state of mind is more trading. And now I'm not saying go out there and and pull the trigger like, 5 to 10 times for my people that do trade 5 to 10 times a day, or make some really risky business decisions back to back to back. Okay, right? Because longevity, as Matthew was saying, is the goal. Being in the being in, staying in the game long enough to see yourself succeed is the goal. Because it's diamonds are made under pressure, but it's constant pressure. It's not that they get squeezed once and then boom,
Mhm.
you know, some mountain shits out of a fucking diamond. Like, it doesn't work like that. It's consistent pressure that was built again and again and again, day and day after day, week after week, month after month, and it's consistent applied pressure. So when you guys, I invite you guys all. For example, myself, I'm afraid of heights. I'm dead ass. Afraid of heights. Like, I can't go to the mall that has like the side rails that are all
Mm.
mirrors and like look straight down. Like, that brings me so much phobia. You have no idea. But ever since I came into this business, I understand one thing: find your fear and live there.
Mm.
Live with it. Live with that pain. Live with that fear. They say that to release suffering, you must learn to live with it, right? Otherwise, you're amplifying that suffering. Because when you toss a problem aside, let's say, what happens to that problem? Does it disappear? You just don't see it anymore. The problem's still there. So when you come across that issue again, it's still gonna be there, right? You can't just toss these things aside. Exactly. So instead of getting rid of your fear, live with it. Learn to live with your fear. Befriend your fear. Become closer with it, because, like Matthew said, you either step into growth or you will fall back into safety. I really, really like when you said that.
Can you say the quote you said again about if you're unsure or afraid of the future?
What was that?
You said about dealing with the present or the past.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So the future is only scary for those who are unable to deal with the present or past,
Mm.
right? It's 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 that's it. Like,
Say it one more time.
the future is only scary for those of who are unable to deal with the future. I mean, with the present or past.
Right. That's so powerful. Like I love what you said with literally living with the fear. It's like the more you do something, the more kind of like comfortable you get with it. You know, like in the beginning, like what does fear stem from? Right? Fear really stems from ignorance, right? Is just
Mm,
the unknown. So ignorance leads to worry and doubt on the conscious level, which then leads to fear on the subconscious level, right? Which then leads to anxiety, which is, on the physical level, anxiety is suppressed, and pretty much like that just paralyzes us and kind of leads into disintegration. And it's kind of how we die, is living in a state of dis-ease, of
yeah.
like being like in a state of dis-ease. But the beautiful thing is everybody kind of starts there, and then like you grow through it. So it's like, for example, I shared an example of, like, I think I talked about this at the boot camp, right? It was like when I first started, like I just got a drone a few weeks ago, right?
Oh, yeah.
So my very first time ever flying my drone, I flew it over like my neighbors' houses up, and I was shitting bricks. Like I was so like what like I was shaking, bro. I was like, oh my god, like I'm so scared, right? Second time, I still had it. And funny enough, the first time I actually flew it fresh out the box, so then I didn't have that much battery, so I had to do an emergency landing, and yeah, it actually crashed into a tree, and then like I had to get it out. Cool, right? So second time, I was still like nervous. I was still like scared, right? But I did it. Smooth landing, cool. Third time, still had it. Fourth time, fifth time. And then by like the seventh time, like I just started to go away. You know, it's the
Yeah.
more I
You
did it,
started you started flying through like trees and stuff, like through
yeah, I started
objects.
to
I was like, whoa,
I
he's
gotta
doing
show you
pretty
some new
amazing
footage
thing.
that I got. But yeah, like so like the more you do things, the more kind of comfortable you get with it. You know,
Yeah.
like it starts to feel more natural to you. All of those feelings go away because you start to gain knowledge, right? And knowledge comes from study, right? From studying previous experiences, but studying how to do certain things in the present moment that can benefit you in the future, right? And that develops understanding, again, on a conscious level, but faith on a subconscious level,
Mm,
right? Because now when you're doing
I like
things,
that.
you have confidence. Now when you're doing things, you have like faith because you actually doing the thing is a reaffirmation of faith. Maybe you've heard me say this before. The greatest affirmation is action, right? The greatest affirmation is action, like saying, thinking that's on a conscious level, right? But doing is on a
Mm-hmm.
subconscious level being expressed, right? So it's like when you actually
I
do
like that.
something, you're really expressing your faith, right? Like you're really affirming that you actually believe in what you're doing, meaning if you truly believe in what you're doing, in your goals and everything, and there's something you have to do that seems scary, but you have to do it, and you're fearful of it, but you have to do it in order to get closer to where you're going. That's the test, right? You hear,
Yeah.
people talk about. One second here. You hear people talk about. Well, I ran out of water before this, so I had to clear my throat.
You're good.
But you hear people talk about like the devil, right? And like how it'll come and test you like as you're going towards things that like you want, or like many other religious texts. Or, like there's something that'll come test you, right? Like before, and it's like it's that thing in front of you that may be fearful, but you have to do it in order to get on the other side because that's your test of faith, right?
Yeah.
Um, because if you're applying your faith, then that's truly what's going to get you there. Doubt, worry is on a conscious level, leads to anxiety, to fear on a subconscious level, which is suppressed with anxiety, and nothing gets done. That's the devil at work, right? Now, faith, right, is again applying knowledge through studying, understanding, and that's applying faith. And when you're applying faith and you do things more and more, right, your your faith on a subconscious level is expressed on a physical level and it's to a state of well-being, right? This is your state of confidence, like you just do things and you don't feel like any of that fear anymore. You're doing things like confidently, like you're walking with confidence, and you're doing things because you know that you went through these certain things in order
Yeah.
to get to where you are. So it's like
Facts.
it's kind of like an unavoidable thing, is these terror barriers is what they call them, right? It's called the terror barrier. And there's different stages of the terror barrier, and I wanted to touch up on a little bit actually about the terror barrier, because that's exactly what this is, right? It's the difference between ignorance and knowledge, right? So pretty much the terror barrier, right? I actually have a little thing right here I'm going to pull up. so so anytime you're setting a goal that results in you skipping a couple of rungs up the ladder of success, you're going to be faced with the terror barrier, right? Wherever you go to make a serious change in, or whenever you go to make a serious change in lifestyle, which is again moving out of your comfort zone, you will run up against the terror barrier, right? With any change that would come under the category of a major change in your behavior, the terror barrier will instantly and automatically be standing between you and the good that you desire,
Mm.
right? When this happens, you have a choice. Again, you could either step back into safety and continue to experience the same results year after year, or you can be courageous and experience the growth that you've been seeking, right?
Mm.
So it's a matter of, just like Bash said, it's a lot of people worry about the future and like they have fear of things repeating from the past, but being able to deal with the present, letting go of the past is so important, right? So again, do not permit old conditioning to prevent you from performing acts in an efficient and effective manner or from enjoying that which is your birthright, because you really do deserve the things that you're going after, right?
Yeah.
So there's 4 steps in the psychological process of experiencing growth, dealing with the terror barrier, right? And step 1 is bondage, right? So bondage is when a person is getting X type results, which are, let's say, the results they do not want, right? And these results are caused by X type conditioning in the subconscious mind, right? So your results, I actually want to share my screen on this.
Yeah. Okay.
If I can do that, yeah. I'm gonna share my screen on this because this is too good. I have to. Ready? Ooh. That's it. Interesting enough, the tab actually just closed. But no, honestly, I think I could just say it. It's fine. Yeah, because there's a barrier between where you are, or maybe you're beyond that barrier and you're grateful that you went through that barrier. Just really, like, let's keep it simple, right? We like to keep things simple, uncomplicated, straightforward, as rewarding and interesting as possible. Or you can think of it as yours, right? Like to keep things as uncomplicated, rewarding, interesting, simple, and straightforward. So imagine on this side is you. Okay. This is the terror barrier. And on the other side of the terror barrier is everything you've ever desired. And this is like concrete, straight up, and you can't go over it, can't go around it. You have to go through it. You have to go through it. And that's the thing Bash was talking about. How do you experience less anxiety with trading? How do you experience less fear with trading? Is more trading.
More.
The more you do something, the more comfortable you get with it, and the more you learn to deal with these things. Because you may have heard this, like, for many successful people, it's like many people try to avoid problems, right? But again, it's Elon Musk said this. It's not about it's your ability to solve problems. Like that's everything, right? Like that's the quantity and the size of the problems is how much you pretty much get paid, how much you get compensated for the problems you're able to solve for other people. So most people try to avoid problems instead of focusing on becoming better problem solvers, right? So the problems never go away. The problems may become bigger, become different things. But again, it's you developing the skills of solving problems allows you to become a better problem solver so that when problems arise, you can solve them. And it's not in a state of being fearful and like, oh my God, what do I do? It's like, no, I've been here before. Like, I've done things. I can do this.
Don't wish for less problems. Wish for more skills.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all I have on that.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Don't wish for more problems. For less problems, right? Like wish for more skills to handle the issues that you have. I mean, and honestly, like being in that state of faith, right? Following through, because saying things or wishing that you want them is just a desire. But like what Matthew was saying, affirming it with action is following your faith, is applying your faith to it. It's applied faith. And having the faith to push forward, living through the pain, to understand that living in those fearful moments is the very thing that may be keeping you, like, not being in that state of fear on a more consistent level, not facing more of those issues, not overturning more of those problems or obstacles is the very thing. So going back to our first quote, the fear of making a mistake. So the fear of, let's say, you're someone that's avoiding making mistakes. You're looking for perfection, right? Let's say we're looking for perfection. at this point. Anybody that may be looking for perfection is avoiding improvement by avoiding mistakes. If
Hmm.
you avoid mistakes, it's the equivalent of you saying I'm also avoiding growth. I'm
Hmm.
avoiding because it is through the pain, it is through known mistakes, it is through previous experience that you learn how to handle yourself for future situations, for future harmful or risky moments of loss, right? And so it is those moments that truly build growth. And not just that, but it's those moments that truly bring out some true sides of you, some sides that you may not know of, that you may not have known that you were this afraid of losing money. You may not have known that you were this fearful of doing certain things. But living in that fear is a self exposure as to who you are and how ready you are to take on more, right? And if you can't handle this moment right now, that's okay. You may not be able to handle it today, but you will be able to handle it at some point with consistent work and daily affirmation. Like Matthew was saying, daily affirmation, affirming to yourself not just by words, but with daily action, moving in one direction instead of staying in one spot. Because I mean, honestly, if you don't like where you're at, then don't, like, excuse me, but don't stay there. Like, come on, like, don't. You're not a fucking tree.
I was
Like,
waiting for that. I was waiting for
you're
you to
not a
go.
tree. That's the reality of it. It's like we're not trees. We don't have to stay planted and foot in grounded in one spot. That's the thing. We as humans have the dignity of choice. We
Mm,
were giving that ability to choose to move forward. The reality is, don't stop moving because you don't know that next step. Don't stop moving because you think you know previous future results by previous experiences. Your current results are a very low affirmation of what's truly coming for your future.
mm,
It's a very low current vibration of focus, of energy for you to put all that focus and energy towards that current result because there's so much more coming in the future. Your results have so much more room to catch up to the level of process and growth that you've accumulated this far.
mm. Wow. I think it's kind of to touch up on like the thing not being a tree, where it's like, so many times, many people will maybe do something a few times, but like, oh, it's not working, I'm gonna do something else. It's
Right.
kind of like so think of this, right? A lot of times when something happens, let's say like a big uh, loss or anything, right?
Yeah.
Some people may feel like they've been buried, right? May have
Oh
heard this
yeah.
before, but in reality, like you've really been planted, But it's up to you to water that. A
Um,
lot of people will keep moving themselves, water something a few times, be like, why isn't it growing? But like, there's like an illustration I saw the other day of like someone staying there watering it for like a long time, right? Let's just compare it to someone just watering it a few times, like, wow, it's not growing. Like, I'm gonna go do something else. I'm gonna go plant it somewhere else. Where it's like, no, just have to keep watering it. You have to keep doing it. So
even
yeah,
if
it's
it's
like
not a
many,
lot, you know? Like those some people that really just come pour so much water. Like they'll just come pour as much water as they can in one day and then leave it for a week. And then I'm
right?
gonna come water it and make up for the past 5 days that I didn't water it and then water it that one
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Dude, it's like yeah, like it's so important to know like when you experience when you go through the terror barrier and you fall or like something happens, it's like you haven't like really been buried, like you've been planted. So it's up to
Mm,
you what you do with that experience. Are you going to be a victim
so
of it
powerful.
and be like, oh my god, like why, or are you going to be like, okay, like I gained a new experience, let me keep moving forward, right? So most people, again, when the pressure is on, they'll allow it to make them fold, but others, right, the people who see the other side of the terror barrier will apply more pressure. It's like my back's against the
Consistent
wall,
watering.
like I'm not gonna fold, I'm gonna go towards that pressure. So it's like some again, this is really what I want to end it with. Something I said earlier, right, is the worst is never gonna happen. and the best is yet to come, right? So instead of asking, right, instead of someone asking themselves, like, what if it doesn't work? What if this happens? What if? Better off asking yourself, right? Instead of what if it doesn't work? Oh, like a
Yeah.
bunch of uncertainty, fear, and doubt. Ask yourself this, right? Before doing that thing that you know you have to do in order to get closer to your goals, right? Ask yourself, what if it turns out better than I could possibly ever imagine,
Wow.
right? What if it turns out better than I could possibly ever imagine? And just fucking do it. Just do it. Find out. You always say, right, before, I don't know what's going to happen next, but there's only one way to find out. And I'd rather be a part of it than be in the stands, on the sidelines, because you are the director of your own movie. You're the main character. Like, you are creating your entire reality, and nothing happens unless you make it happen, right? So
You're
there's
one
only one way
decision
to find
away.
out, right?
Yeah.
Success, right? Success is not final, and failure is not fatal, right? Like, keep going. It's just gotta keep going. That's really it, you know. So
Oh,
that's it for me, guys.
yeah. No, I mean, honestly, I like that. Let's wrap it up right there. And, I appreciate you guys for being here with us and truly like take the time to go back, take some notes. Any comments, questions, observations that you guys have made throughout the call, please feel free to reach out to either one of us. And even if you're just sharing your breakthroughs with us, feel free to share your whatever breakthroughs you may had in on Instagram or any social media. We welcome any feedback. If you guys want to hear of any certain topics, please hit us up. But yeah, we're going to so next time now we're being aware of the fears that we will be coming across on our journey to get to where we want to go, and now next time we're really gonna dive into how to deal with these. Now we dove a little bit into that today, which was diving more into it.
Let's
So
do it.
the cure for pain is pain, right? So now we're gonna dive a little bit more into that next call. So with that, guys, we'll let you guys go. We appreciate you
Actually,
guys.
I actually want to say one thing before
Yeah,
we
bro.
go. Exactly what you're saying. Like, the way to get over discomfort is like more discomfort, right?
Yeah.
You like become comfortable being uncomfortable, right? So it's like I wanted to just throw this out there, challenge for yourself. You know, there's a girl you've been wanting to talk to, there's a guy you've been wanting to talk to, there's a phone call you've been having to make. If there's an investment in yourself, you've been like waiting on, and there's just something holding you back from taking that next step to get you closer to an experience that you've been wanting to experience or something that you're curious about. Do it. If there's a something new that you've been wanting to do, you feel like it's been calling you, but there's just something holding you back. I encourage you to take one more step closer to that, right? Just the next step. If it's making that investment into that course, that book, that education, that mentor, again, making that phone call, having an uncomfortable conversation, but it's a healing conversation that needs to be had with someone with a certain relationship in your life, whatever it is, right? Just take the next step, go through that terror barrier, and yeah. So I encourage you, because I'll definitely do that as well. So
I love that. I love that. It's a really good challenge for all of us to take this week to do something that you may have been postponing. Like now is the time to do those things that you may have been postponing or putting aside. The time is now. There's no other there's no other moment better than now to deal with um things that you may be fearful of facing. There's no other time better than now to face your fears. So with that, guys, we are gonna close it out. Appreciate you guys for being here today with us. Whether it is for whether you came across this channel through our trading community, whether you came across it on IG, wherever it is that you came across it, guys, take the time to let us know how, or any comments or observations that you may have made, or if you know somebody that may need to hear this today, share this call with them, forward it to them, and we encourage you to help us make this wisdom go viral. So thank you guys again for everything that you do. Your time and space and energy is everything. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one. Take care.
Yes.
Peace.